Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, and you know what that means. Nothing at all, other than the fact that it's time to get nerdy, y'all. Welcome to episode number 164 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. I am Lam, also known as Mr. Nice Guy, and I've got my comrade in gaming commentary here with me, the Miggity Mac, also known as Maction. Mac, what's good, buddy? How you been?
I've been all right, all things considered. This weekend was a fantastic weekend. Obviously, Halloween. Did not dress up, but had the brother and sister-in-law over. And man, it was good to see them. Haven't seen them in months. They brought the nephews, and we had s'mores, roasted marshmallows. We played a little bit of video games, not too much, just a tiny bit.
What games did you play?
So they mostly played.
That was a test. That was a test. You got to save it for what we've been watching and what we've been playing. I gotcha.
You tested me and I failed. Man, what's going on here? So, so basically it was a really good weekend. It was, the type of weekend that you feel like really energizes you, recharges you, and also at the same time fills you with a little bit of sadness because you're like, oh, you live so far away. I miss you. So, bittersweet weekend.
Understood, man. And my weekend was not nearly that exciting. We kind of kept it at home for the Halloween thing. The one thing I will say was disappointing at this year's Halloween is just the fact that I have the Ring doorbell, Mac. And one of my favorite things about Halloween is seeing many of my neighbors post angry videos about people who took all the candy off their doorstep, or knocked over their pumpkins on accident, or made funny faces in the camera, just suburban people being angry for no reason. I miss that. So coronavirus, please let us vaccinate you so that next year I get my angry Karen-like Halloween videos and I can laugh at them. I miss that, Mac. I really miss that.
Understandably so. And I would miss it too if I had a newfangled, doorbell, or if I had neighbors for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? Sometimes with neighbors, you can take them or leave them. And Mac, on that note, I say we do what we do best. And we hop right into that gaming news, my friend. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. It's been a week for gaming. So what's in the news, dude?
Dude, now we always do music references on here, and you had a perfect setup there. I thought you were going to say, it's been 1 week since video game news or something like that. I don't know what I thought you were going to do. I thought you were going to do the reference to the Bare Naked Ladies. You didn't do that one. We got to get a couple musical references in before the end of the show, which is what we do.
I promise, at least one musical reference from me before the end of the show. Scouts on.
Chat, hold him accountable. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode number 164 of Two Nerds in a Pod, nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy, and here is the gaming news this week. Mac, a game that you and I are both familiar with, Pokemon Go. Got to catch them all. This is on GameSpot.com by James O'Connor. Even though going out to search for new Pokemon was much more difficult in 2020, some modifications to the game and a player base with much more on their hands, I can't read today, much more time on their hands than usual, has meant to Pokemon Go has made a lot of money this year. So that actually was a typo, that last part that I read. Yeah. So maybe I'm literate. Maybe it's just written wrong. Sensor Tower is reporting that Pokemon Go brought in $1 billion so far in 2020. And you know what, Mac? Now that I've seen how many typos are in here, I'm wondering if that $1 billion is actually supposed to be 1 million, in which case this is not as important a news story as I thought it was. But we'll continue. And has surpassed $4 billion in lifetime revenue. The total is now around $4.2 billion. Mac, are you still playing Pokemon Go? How are they still making $1 billion a year at this point?
I don't know. Sadly, with Pokemon Go, while I can appreciate, respect, and understand the appeal and what it brings to the table, when it came right down to it, I was there day one with Pokemon Go, but it would not work on my cell phone, and so I just let it disappear like tears in the rain. So, or perhaps dust in the wind.
In the wind! I knew you were going to do it! I knew it! I knew he was going to do that, y'all. Like, legit.
That's 10 years of friendship.
That's 10 years of friendship. We're on the same wavelength. Dude, we should go on one of those game shows where they're like, guess what your friend is thinking, and I'll just be like, he's thinking about Mega Man 2. Like I know it. I know he's thinking about Mega Man
How
2.
do you do that? He's a wizard.
And we would be instant millionaires. Wait
Mm-hmm.
for it. 2021, y'all. Coronavirus, vaccinate yourself. But anyway, Mac. So in all seriousness, I can't think of any reason why anyone is still putting that much money into this game, other than the fact that maybe they just got hooked early on and they want to get those eggs. They want to level up faster. There's so much free stuff. I just don't know how Pokemon Go is still a thing, especially with most people staying home. You know what I mean? I think that sales would be down logically. Would you agree?
I mean, potentially, but then again, I don't. I'm gonna put my ignorance out there. I don't know what in Pokemon Go you're spending money to do, except for right, like to make eggs hatch faster, level up faster. Um,
Yeah, and Galvatron in the chat says his answer to this is the same reason why Activision made 1.2 billion from MTX alone in the last quarter. What is MTX exactly? I'm not sure what that stands for. But yes, Activision's been doing really well, and that's more I'd say because of things like Call of Duty Warzone, right? They released a free game. It has some microtransactions. Additionally, there's a new Call of Duty every year. They're releasing a bunch of different stuff. They own Destiny. Oh, MTX is microtransactions. Okay. So to me, those games are much more relevant than Pokemon Go. But apparently, I'm just out of touch with what the kids are into, Mac.
I, I don't know. I mean, it's usually been the case that the great majority of money from microtransactions come from the whales, as they call them, but, from a very small group of people who just, keep on shelling out more and more money in the microtransactions. I, yeah, I don't foresee that being something that I would do, but maybe I just don't understand the mindset of a wheel and therefore can't really wrap my brain around this either.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, moving on to our next news story. Shout out to Pokemon Go. Congratulations on your success. This next one is by Luke Plunkett at Kotaku.com. It's about a Nintendo Switch emulator. Yuzu Mac is a popular Switch emulator, one that earlier this week decided to add limited online multiplayer support for its games. A decision it swiftly reversed. Dun dun dun. Not long after announcing the moves, the developers posted on the emulator's blog that the service was being disconnected, while apologizing to our community for the confusion and disappointment surrounding this release. And I'm not going to read the whole explanation they gave, or rather the apology that they gave, but it goes on to say that while they don't list what the insightful feedback was, one small thing might have been the fact that emulators trade on the pretense that they are about homebrew, preservation, and playing games you've already owned, not messing around with friends online playing games you may not have paid for. The other, more common piece of feedback was probably the dangers inherent in Yuzu making the service available only to their Patreon subscribers, in effect, making it what could be considered a paid service, which in turn would have sounded a giant klaxon somewhere deep within the bowels of Nintendo HQ. So, Mac, that's my question for you. Like, do you think that's the reason why? I mean, surely if you're smart enough to make an emulator, right, and also make it have online service, you would have already considered that Nintendo would possibly be mad. Do you think that's the reason?
Well, I mean, I feel like Nintendo is always in a position of being mad, sort of in the spoiler alert Hulk superposition, as you were, of always being angry, yet not always hulking out, as we learned from from Avengers, the first one, and
So
yeah.
who's Nintendo's Black Widow then? Because Black Widow could calm the Hulk down. Like who? What is it? Lawyers? Is it money? Like what is Nintendo's Black Widow? To stick with the analogy, think about that. We could talk about that
Yeah,
later.
we'll take that. We'll take that as the conversation after. But yeah, it's good food for thought. But nonetheless, I mean, any emulator is cause for klaxons at Nintendo to be going off. After all, they still on their page identify as emulation as being the greatest threat to intellectual property, to all of gaming. The greatest threat to gaming is emulators. But in spite of continuing to claim that they're illegal when they are in fact not, but we could go down that road. I suspect that it would primarily be the issue of, yes, that if you can do online with Switch emulation, that just paints more of a bigger target on your back. And yeah, doing it, setting it up so that only available to patrons is certainly a, paying in some way, a compensation in order to make it work, which makes it just all that much easier for them to make the arguments and for potentially those arguments to stick, because most of the time when you are, making an argument in front of a judge, they are not often a video gamer or even necessarily someone who's, a specialist in certain things. Certain distinctions
or a
might
jury.
be lost.
Or in front of a jury. Even,
Or
right?
even a jury. And it rests to the ability of your lawyers to make the best case that they can, which, of course, that's always true. But normally you probably wouldn't be going to a jury with intellectual property stuff. We don't
good point.
often
Fair
see
point.
that unless you've got huge amounts of money, like, for example, in the Apple v. Samsung, where they were talking about patents on what amounted to rectangles, the design. And so,
Here's where I'll play devil's advocate with what you're saying, because I think that you make a really, really valid point about them charging for it being part of the issue. However, how is them charging for this emulator any different than the fact that many, many people make Kickstarters of retro consoles and charge for them? Now, granted, yes, there's physical hardware, but I still feel like it's a similar concept.
So the big issue at heart is that, of course, keep in mind, emulators completely legal. There's nothing illegal about emulators,
Right.
and there is arguably nothing illegal about charging access for your service to the emulation side of things. However, that wouldn't stop, as we've shown in the past, that won't stop Nintendo from coming after you. When people are making clone systems, clone hardware and the like, or they're making things like, Retron 5s or what have you, those design patents have expired and are no longer covered.
Okay, got it.
But that didn't stop in the early 2000s Nintendo from suing companies who were making clones of the NES, which had been legal for years to be made. It didn't stop Nintendo from suing them and, basically logging those companies down in legal fees to the point that the companies shut down and went out of business. So they shut them down through suing them, even though it wasn't that it came through the judge or through fees assessed there. They just war of attritioned them down. And so, I mean, Nintendo is not above doing that. They've done it before. They will do it again. And I think that's probably more of what these guys might be worried about. It's what I would worry about.
Yeah, this is such an interesting idea to me because I feel like emulation is incomplete unless you have that online aspect. Now, granted, I don't know that Nintendo Switch really needs emulation at this point. That's just my opinion. Like most people that are really wanting to play Switch games are doing it on a Switch. However, in the name of game preservation, it's awesome to see that there's NES emulation, that there's SNES emulation, because there's games that could be lost. Um, I feel like with the Switch stuff, it's still so recent that we don't need that. However, I like the idea of online emulation with a Super Nintendo because I can hop on with my brother across the country. We can play a couple games of Ken Griffey Jr.'s Winning Run or Looney Tunes B-Ball or whatever, or Gauntlet Legends in 64.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you. And have a good time. Now, there will never be a big enough online community, in my opinion, with emulated games where you can just hop on and find a game. But you could use it to connect with friends. And to me, that's where emulation really shines. So I'm disappointed to hear that they shut down their emulator for that reason. But anyway, Mac, you gave some really good insight into that. Thank you. Let's keep things moving. Do a couple more news stories. Shout out to Kane real quick for the Twitch Prime sub. I believe it's Twitch Prime. If it's not, it's a sub either way. Thank you so much. And what else do we got this week, man? Oh, this one's another legal one, Mac, that I think will be right up your alley. Deals with the PlayStation 5 coming out. This is on Engadget by Igor Bonafakic. I probably butchered that name, and I apologize. If you've been following the lead up to PlayStation 5's November 12th release date, you'll know that a company called PlateStation had emerged in mid-October to offer a way for people to customize the new console. For $40, the startup offered to sell would-be PS5 owners a set of panels to replace the PS5 stock white ones. At the time, you could buy the plates in a variety of colors, including chromatic silver, cherry red, black, blue, or jungle camo. But no more due to the threat of legal action from Sony. So I'll just read this tweet from them, Mac. I don't know if you'd heard about this story already, but here's what the company had to say. As I'm sure some of you will be finding out, due to patent and intellectual property issues, we will be canceling all orders and processing refunds. We will work hard over the weekend to get this done, so bear with us. Once complete, you'll receive an email. Mac, bottom line, like, I mean, we're not lawyers, right? But is this illegal to offer quote unquote plates to customize your PlayStation? I feel like we see this in many different forms. I don't get this.
So most of the time when you're seeing accessories, whether that's wraps for for an Xbox, or in this case new plates for the PlayStation, what's going on? And I don't know if this was if you already mentioned this, I might have missed it, but if this wasn't on our plate already to talk about, we appreciate Galvatron pointing this one out, because this was the one he mentioned on Twitter, right?
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, I forgot to credit him for that. Yeah, Galvatron, thank you for mentioning this. Absolutely.
Yeah. But when you've got a design patent for a console, that includes the various components of the console, and things like plates. We're talking about the cosmetic plates that go on it are a part of the design patent. So it is a problem. It is bad form on their part to be offering this without having sought permission from Sony first in order to make them and in order to sell them. Much in the same way that you'll get, Apple on any charger that you can get that uses Apple's design patents for their proprietary ports. One of the reasons why there is the air quotes Apple tax, as they call it, is because the people who manufacture something compatible with Apple products, like those charging ports, have to pay the piper. They have to pay Nintendo in order to license, or Apple, in order to license the design patenting for the creation of their own thing that is compatible with the Apple devices. Whereas you don't see that in something like Android, because USBs are, not a part of a design patent that is, that is pursued like that. So, is it legal? As far as I am aware, I suspect that it's 100% legal on the, within the context of the design patent question. But, I mean, is it great? No.
No, and so here's the thing. The article goes on to basically say they've stopped doing this. They've rebranded and changed their name to Customized Plates instead of PlateStation or whatever it was before. And now they're making vinyl skins for the PlayStation 5, which to me, granted the PlayStation doesn't have vinyl skins on it, but to me they could almost go after them for that too. You know what I mean?
Well, but that's not, the vinyl can come in anything. And vinyl is just something that you apply over top of it.
No, I get that. But if you brand it and say, hey, this is for the PlayStation 5, couldn't they hypothetically go after you? I mean, I'm not saying that this hasn't been done for a long time, because it has.
The way that you get around that is you say for use with or compatible with. You use one of those other words that says, oh, we're not affiliated with, we are not endorsed by PlayStation, but this will work on your PlayStation.
Interesting.
You just need to make sure that you are making unambiguous that you do not have a connection to the PlayStation that that other wording would imply, and then you're usually, as far as I'm aware, again, not a lawyer, but you're usually in the clear.
And well, Ruckus brings up, and I'll end on this. Ruckus brings up a valid point in the chat, which is pretty much where my mind went when I read this story. He says, can't wait to see Control Freak getting sued for using modded controllers. And that's the reality, is that there are so many different accessory companies or peripheral companies that make different things for these consoles, and they've been around for decades, right? We've seen it since Xbox 360, PS4. People were using modded controllers in Call of Duty. People were modding their different consoles, sometimes with software, sometimes with hardware. So it's just interesting to me that Sony, of all companies, is now choosing to fight this battle. I just really don't get it. They've never been the Nintendo in this sense. They haven't really been like this. So it's just weird to see.
Yeah, and we don't know how many of those companies in the past either did go looking for, for approval, that they did pay the piper, as it were, for the license to, to put out PlayStation compatible, Xbox compatible. I kind of wish that I knew somebody at Mad Catz so that I could ask them, because, I mean, they go way back making third-party, controllers and the like, and how they made that happen, because I suspect it's, a licensing deal. But I feel like after a console is abandoned and, the company's onto its new thing, I feel like that's when I tend to see all of, a lot more of the third-party controllers and third-party things coming out for these, because they're less worried about being pursued. I don't know, or paying the piper. Who knows? I wish I knew more, because it's a good question.
It's an interesting concept. We'll see where this goes, because I'd love to be able to buy one of these plates and be able to customize my PS5 if I ever get one. That has been our news for the week.
Okay, well, now that we've taken a look at what's going on right now, let's take a look into the past. A little bit of gaming history for you. We will start with the more recent one. I want to highlight, in 2005, the release of Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the original Xbox and the PlayStation 2. Star Wars Battlefront 2, the one from 2005, the superior Star Wars Battlefront 2. I have a lot of fond feelings of it. Basically, it was an amazing Star Wars FPS, covering both the prequels and the originals, and you got to do stormtroopers, clone troopers. It was huge battlefields going on in just a way that we hadn't seen before, because while there had been lots of reasonable scale battles in Star Wars Battlefront 1, that really just paled in comparison to the size, just the sheer scope of things that you had going on, of the battles in Battlefront 2. Not surprisingly, it lived up to its name. It was a worthy successor to the title. I, of course, was a little bit disappointed that when we got Battlefront 2 a few years ago, the more recent one, that it did not, that it wasn't just a straight up remake of the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. It was just great. And coming from someone who's not a big shooter fan, who's not about that big battlefield life, I just gotta say that it was great.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game.
Oh, you played it as well, yeah?
I absolutely did. Yeah, Battlefront 2 was great. And I believe it was a free PS Plus title not too long ago. So those who didn't get to play it when it first came out were able to pick it up. I like Battlefield, the game, generally. And so this was basically Battlefield with Star Wars skins. It had, I don't want to minimize how great it was, because it was more than that. But I had an absolutely blast playing with it, and I wish it had been bigger and built a more solid community. But it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, no, well worth its spot in video game history here. Another one released in 2003 would be Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance. This was actually, in spite of Fire Emblem starting on the NES or the Famicom, of course, like they all did, this Fire Emblem game was the first one that I played, and kind of got me into the series. I've been very slowly over the past several years working my way through Fire Emblems, where I can play them on the consoles that I have them and the like. And it's a surprisingly enjoyable series. It's not exactly breaking too many barriers or boundaries in there. But it's good. It's got good characters. Marth, of course, from Smash Brothers, as most people know him, comes from the Fire Emblem series.
Yep.
And yeah, just a solid RPG. So the main event. that I want to focus on for video game history today. In 1999, this week, the release of Resident Evil 2 for the Nintendo 64. Okay. I played Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1, right? So I tend to mention that. But when it was released on the Nintendo 64, bears special discussion. Now, I will put a little bit of a asterisk here, and I will say that some of the video game history I plan 6-8 months, occasionally a year in advance. And this one I had planned to talk about since January, so nearly a year back. But Modern Vintage Gamer did a interesting thing just a few months ago on RE2 for the Nintendo 64. And so, if you've got the time to watch a 20-minute video, he does a good breakdown on it. But why Resident Evil 2 for the Nintendo 64 is cool. It's a game fit on a 64 megabyte cartridge for the N64. It had a built-in randomizer for Resident Evil 2, and keep in mind that Resident Evil 2 was on 2 CDs for the PS1, which means it was 1.2 gigabytes of information, and they managed to compress it down into 64 megabytes, which is an incredible task. They did it with a lot of optimizing, a lot of tricks here, a lot of cutting down bit rates, taking items, taking like graphics and scaling them down, but especially taking the full motion videos and really working some magic on them. So, for example, if you were to watch the 64 versions and the PS1 versions side by side, you would notice that the PlayStation versions are a lot brighter, whereas the N64 version's a lot duller and a bit blurrier.
Watered down a little bit.
Yeah, watered down, exactly. They saved huge amounts of data by just taking the full motion videos and really compressing the visuals. So much so that those visuals in the full motion video bits are actually running at 15 frames per second, and they're using a little visual trick to, you've got frame 1 and frame 3, because they cut out frame number 2 in a 30-second thing. And what they did is they just had the chip make an average frame between the two and essentially give a motion blur, and that way they did it live, as it were, and cut out having to keep all of that information on the on the cartridge. It's definitely interesting, definitely fun. They also cut down like the audio, like the voices. They have considerable compression as compared to what you would be used to if you were listening to the PlayStation 1's audio. Anyway, they cut a lot of corners, but in the best of ways. The corners that they cut, they tended to either be very not really noticeable to us as human beings, unless of course they're side by side. And the amount of stuff they were able to pull off by compressing that down is just astonishing. And the people who did it did not get paid nearly enough for the amazing porting job that they pulled off for the Nintendo 64 version of Resident Evil 2. That's all I have to say about that for video game history, but it is a monumental feat, and like I said, Modern Vintage Gamer did a pretty good breakdown on it that you can watch for a little bit more information.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that education in our old school gaming from Maction. Time to move on to the topic of the week, a segment where we talk about something relevant in gaming, the hottest story in gaming, and give our opinions on it. Now, this, full disclosure, is a story that I sent to Mac in advance, and I'll explain why in just a minute. This is from Kotaku.com by Stephen Totillo. Here's what he has to say. And I want to get opinions in the chat from you guys on this. Time passes strangely these days, so it is easy to forget things that happened or were said or were pledged just 5 months ago. But it was indeed in June 2020 that institutions around the world, including video game companies, vowed to do better by their black customers and black workers for the cause of racial justice. During a recent interview with Xbox chief Phil Spencer, the author says, I asked him about this. His company, Microsoft, had made several pledges, including to do better by its black employees, to recruit more black workers into the tech giant, and to double the number of black and African American people managers, senior individual contributors, and senior leaders in the United States by 2025. That was June when everyone was talking about racial justice. Quote, one of the worries is that you get kind of hyper focused at a certain time and the election comes along and the months go by and you just almost kind of shift, Spencer told me. The conversation turns to something else, and I do think it's something that we should come back to. So, Mac, once again, we could read this whole thing. We're not going to do that. Phil Spencer has said again that the gaming industry needs more black leaders. And I want to get your thoughts on this. The reason I sent this to Mac in advance is not that Mac can't ad lib. We've been doing this for 4 years, and we've been friends for 10. But this is an issue, I feel like you should have some time to think, to gather your thoughts, and say what you want to say. What are your thoughts on this statement and the premise of these things being forgotten from month to month based on what's hot?
So there's only so much. Okay, look. Anger is a powerful motivator.
Yeah.
Spite is a powerful driving force. Don't underestimate what you can accomplish with spite.
Sure.
But I will say that there is a limited amount of anger, frustration, rage that most human beings can bring to bear. And while I don't like what he said, I cannot deny that there is some truth there, that there's some real human honesty truth there to the, we lose focus and we focus on something else and it's something that we need to come back to. And as much as I kind of was really annoyed by him saying that, because that's essentially, what that essentially amounts to is, we kind of forgot about this and, went a different way. It's just like, really, man? I guess that just shows how much of a priority it is to you. Which I don't think is... Which I don't want to let him off the hook and be like, it's all human. But I was a little bit off balanced by him being honest about that, and even though he phrased it well, still being honest about the, hey, you lose track of things sometimes when when a lot of stuff is going on, when everything's on fire. And
yeah.
I mean,
I'm with you, dude. I'm totally with you.
Yeah. And it's not an excuse. It's not a good enough excuse to be like, gosh, I really want to curse right here, but it's not enough to just be like, stuff's crazy, bro, because essentially that's what this sentiment amounts to.
It's one of those things where, like, when you get caught in a lie and then you later try, not you or me, but when someone gets caught in a lie and then they later try to come back and apologize or tell the truth, it's like, well, no, you're not telling the truth because you're altruistic or because you're a good person. You're now telling the truth and apologizing because you got caught red-handed. Don't act like you're passionate about this. Don't read some written apology because you said something offensive and then donate a portion of your wealth to the people who you said the offensive thing to. Do those things because you really believe in them, right? That's how I feel about it, and I feel like Phil Spencer here, no disrespect, is doing exactly what you said. And I don't think he's the only one. I see this all the time where, it's like all it took was a lot of people to get murdered for Twitch to start recognizing black creators and putting us on the front page saying, hey, it's not Black History Month, but we're going to put some black and Latinx creators on the front page because people of color are really upset right now. And to me, that's just not the way it should be. Mac, I want to read a tweet to you, if that's okay. And this just came to my mind. I liked this tweet on Twitter a day or so ago, and I don't know this person. I will quote her. But here's what she said. She was responding to a tweet that said, reply with your most controversial gaming opinion that'll get you in this position. And then it had like a picture of the dude from Tangled or with all the knives pointing at him. So respond with your opinion that'll get you a lot of people mad at you. And here's what she said. She said the esports and gaming industry used the Black Lives Matter movement and the death of George Floyd for performative marketing purposes and then dropped the subject when it stopped trending. This was by Briggsy Cakes. I don't know her, but that's what she tweeted. I feel like she's right on point with that. And I don't know if there's too much more we need to say. Do you have any other thoughts, or can I say like one or two more things, man?
I will just say that I think that there are a lot of people. No, there aren't a lot of people. There are some narcissists and psychotic people who, when they get caught saying something that's a lie, just pretend like it didn't happen, or that that's not what actually happened. So I feel like maybe the Overton window here has shifted, for me at least. But I feel in one sense, I'm like, not a good move, dude. At the same time, I'm like, well, I suppose at least you've acknowledged that it is something that you said and it's a promise that you didn't deliver on. But then again, I mean,
And
what's the minimum? What's the bare minimum that somebody needs, effort that someone needs to be putting in to be considered actually doing something? You didn't meet that.
right,
So,
and yeah. And you know what's interesting about it? It's not about Phil Spencer by any stretch. Like, we're not trying to crucify Phil Spencer. He just happens to be the one that this article is about.
yeah, it's about the industry trend.
It is, exactly. And I will say that this goes far beyond the video game industry. This goes into all types of different business sectors where, these things happened and now, oh, we got to hire some black people and let's have a diversity week, and let's bring attention to all these talented people that we were ignoring before. Do it for do it. Yes. Hire us, hire qualified people of color, qualified voices of color in the gaming industry, but do it because everyone deserves that opportunity. Mac, when I used to make YouTube videos, I remember watching YouTube videos, Call of Duty creators doing different things, trolling, getting high level kills, and there weren't many people who looked like me. And I always wanted to find YouTubers, streamers, podcasters who looked like me because it made me believe that I could get to that point, right? When I saw people in positions that I wanted to get to, I knew it was possible. And so to me, that's why we should amplify these voices and hire them, because it gives different perspectives to the industry and it helps little boys and girls, of various backgrounds to believe that they can do it too. And it just makes America better. So that's what I think about it.
100% agree. I couldn't possibly add anything better than that.
Awesome. And that has been our topic of the week.
All right, well, now let's move to a crowdfunding effort that's trying to get off of the ground. I present for you all a little game called Chronosword. I've posted a link in the chat. Feel free to navigate over there and take a peek. If you can't, I will do my best to summarize. Chronosword has a $50,000 goal. A $15 minimum buy-in, $25 if you're the type of person who likes to have beta access to a game in progress. I didn't see mention on their page of when exactly that would be open. Suspected delivery is November of 2021, so 1 year from now, and they are building it in Unity and do specifically mention potential releases for PlayStation, Switch, and Xbox as being possible because, of course, Unity engine fairly ubiquitous. So, backing up, what is Chronosword? They called it a Souls-like action-adventure game with the sort of time travel-y background. I don't think that time travel specifically plays a mechanical course inside of the game so much as it is the backdrop and setting and has more of a narrative flair rather than a mechanical flair. So I don't think so. Time travel is a part of it, but I think it's more a narrative rather than a mechanic. It is an action slasher, beat 'em up, whatever you want to call it, but it's isometric and pixel art. I love isometric pixel art, Mr. Nice Guy. It is
I do
the
too.
classiest of the pixel art, he said as he holds a whole bevy of perlers from the from taken from sprites from Final Fantasy Tactics, his favorite of all the Final Fantasy games, and up there in his top video games of all time. So instantly my heart is just, my eyes are transfixed. I want it so bad. It's coming out of South Korea. Game Round is the name of the company who's behind this. It's their second Kickstarter that they've done. Although what they did was they started up Chronosword on October 26th and then canceled it before any bids were put up, and then, just re-put up the same game. It was basically what looked to be, a launch just a little bit too prematurely. Anyway, yeah, lots of different things here. The game has a dark tone to it, and almost a little bit of Hyperlight Drifter sort of feel in some of the art assets and the like.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what I was thinking.
yeah.
Darker, but definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, that is Chronosword. Mr. Nice Guy, what are you thinking?
I really like it. The look, I should say. I have not played the demo, but yeah, it gives off that Hyperlight Drifter vibe. Also kind of gives me, like, it's not a side scroller, but a little bit of a cave story type vibe as far as how the characters and the enemies look. And I like this, and I can tell that these people are intelligent because of the way that they have phrased things on this Kickstarter. They said it's coming out for Switch, which makes sense. They said it's coming out for Steam, which makes sense. They said that it's coming out for PlayStation and Xbox, but they did not say PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, and they did not say Xbox Series S or Series X, right? So they're leaving the window open intentionally for it to be on the upcoming generation, which is not something I have seen from a single other Kickstarter that we have covered. They've all said PlayStation 4, Xbox Series S, or current gen Xboxes, right? Xbox One S or X, and they haven't really left the window open for future stuff. So I like that these people are good businessmen and women. I like that. It's a little dark for me just looking at it. I kind of like, bright lights and things like that. It's very much like a dreary type of game, but that's what they're going for. So I really like this, and at a $15 price point, I think that this is killer.
Yeah, I like it as well. But you know me, Mr. Nice Guy. If you want my money, you have to have something, and that is a playable demo. And I am saddened to say that a playable demo does not feature on this Kickstarter. It's at the very bottom of the Kickstarter crawl. It is there, but in order to play said playable demo, you can't download it to play it. You have to register on the Game Round site in order to play it, which I am not a big fan of. And now,
one moment, because I actually see the demo button in the middle of the Kickstarter, not at the very bottom. I see it right under the section that says platforms, just as a point of clarification.
I apologize. My sincerest apologies. That's on me. Hang on. We're going to back up.
Take those words back.
Taking the words back. So, yes, there is a playable demo. There is a link at the very bottom of the Kickstarter, and there's also a link in the middle. Sadly, I went off a little bit crazy there for a second because I missed the demo, the play the demo there, and that's on me. But I will say, not a big fan that you have to register on this Game Round site in order for you to download and play the game. So
I agree that's a bad move.
Additionally, not putting the demo up as the very first thing, even above what's the story, noting that you've got a proof of concept there is important, and it should be absolutely up there. So, yeah. Nonetheless, though, all in all, I do like it. I like that it's got a playable demo. It's something that I've put on my list for trying out later this week, and I'll get back to you with more on that. But I like it, and I feel like this is something that should be kick-started.
Yeah, you know what, man, this is not something that's really that unique, right? We have so many games like this right now. In fact, I'm playing one that we'll talk about in what we've been watching, what we've been playing. But I like it. Like it's very charming, and I think that it has a great chance to be successful. I think that $15 is exactly what this should be priced at. And I think that this game will make a killing on the Nintendo Switch if it gets ratings of an 8 out of 10 and above. So I think this should absolutely be kickstarted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, isometric pixel, it's yeah, I love it. I will try it, and I will probably be backing this one. Now, of course, Kane in the chat says kick. The phrase Souls-like is a massive turnoff for me. And I can kind of understand where you're coming from, but I think my personal desire to have isometric pixel art is a little bit, overwhelming here. Now, I will say, I hope that they do a little bit more work on the pixel art, because I feel like it's a good base, but I think, especially in the main character design, there needs to be just a little bit more variation, a little bit more razzmatazz, if you will. So that's all that I have to say on this. I will hop upon my penny farthing and head that way.
Estimated delivery, Mac, just for those who are considering. I don't think we talked about that.
November of 2021. The beta access did not list when estimated delivery would be, but presumably before then.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mac. This looks like a great game. I'm excited to see if they do make it, and I hope they do. Well, moving on to our next thing, which is a segment we like to call Nerd Flex. Woo-hoo. A segment where you, the viewer, try to stump the host, and you never quite do. And you know what's funny, Mac?
Except for when they do.
Except for like the one in 160 episodes where they actually succeed.
Or last one where we did technically whiff on all three.
Well, did we do that last week, or was that 2 weeks ago?
Well, no, it was like 3 weeks ago and last week as well.
Are you sure?
I am almost positive, because we whiffed on 3, and then we're like, hey, first time we've been clean swept, and then we did fine the next time around, and we were feeling pretty good, and then we whiffed again. And Crux Capacitor had that clutch one about the original Sega mascot, and that was the one that we thought we were gonna get. And but no, we
it was kind of a trick question, but I learned something from that, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was good. So
well, cool.
So
well, anyway, if you're here live, you have a job to do. Get some questions into the chat, and we will answer some of them. We're going to start with viewer questions this week. Mac, would you do the honors, please, and read this first question for us?
Sure. Ishmobile asks, how many characters were in Super Smash Bros. For the N64? Was it A, 8, B, 12, C, 16, or D, 24? Gosh.
Why don't we quickly talk through the character names? I'm going to write them down.
Okay, so real quick, please remember that I didn't have a Nintendo 64 until just a few years ago. So
That's okay, because we're gonna talk through them. You may be able to help me remember some.
Sure.
I know that we had. Go ahead, buddy.
So
Tell me the ones you think.
I know we had Link.
Yep.
I know we had. I feel like we had Princess Zelda. I think we had Captain Falcon. We had Kirby, Bowser, Pikachu, Ness, Mario, Game & Watch.
Was he on N64? I don't think he was.
Okay, maybe he wasn't.
I'm writing it down just in case, but we'll cross it out later.
Let's see. We had, well, I already said Princess Zelda / Sheik. Were Roy and Marth both on N64?
I don't
think
know.
They were.
Once again, were they on the N64 or did they come up with the GameCube? I feel like in the first one there were 12 characters, if I remember correctly. And I'm just trying to remember the names because I know we had the basics, right? Mm-hmm. We had Mario, we had Link, we had Kirby, We had Pikachu. We had Bowser. Ness. Donkey Kong, I'm pretty sure was in there.
Yoshi.
Yeah, Yoshi would have probably been in there.
So that should
Who
at
else?
least take us over 12.
That puts me at 11.
At 11, okay.
Mario, unless I missed one you said. Mario, Link, Kirby, Falcon. Oh, we had Star Fox. Let me
Fox,
put him
yeah,
on there.
Star Fox.
Which makes me think we would have also had the Blue Bird. What was his name?
Falco?
Yeah, Falco.
I did
Okay.
a thing.
You did it.
Did we also list Ness?
Yeah, we got Ness.
Okay. So I feel like we're either looking at C16 or D24.
Right, and I feel like it was 16. So I have Falco, Fox, Mario, Link, Kirby, Falcon, Bowser, Pikachu, Ness, Game and Watch, possibly Zelda / Sheik, Donkey Kong, and Yoshi. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Very possible that we're missing like 3, but I'm pretty sure that we're not missing 15.
Yeah.
That would put us up to 24.
Yeah.
So
that's
I'm
fair.
I'm gonna go with C16 as my final answer.
Okay, so you had proposed that we both go together on an answer. So as much as I want to go for D24, I will go with you on C16. We will answer this as a unified.
Dang
Okay,
it.
12. Mario, Donkey Kong, Link, Samus, Yoshi, Kirby, Fox, Pikachu, Luigi, Ness, Captain Falcon, and Jigglypuff. So my apologies. I threw us way too far there with with Roy and Marth, and that's really what put us into the wrong thing. So
It's all good, man.
sorry.
It's all good. We were, you know what? We were close. We were only off by 4. I remembered they had way less, but that's okay. We'll keep it moving. If anyone else has a multiple choice trivia question they would like to get in the chat that is about video games, please do so. In the meantime, let's move on to a question from the test bank. So, Mac, here is the first test bank question for the night. Are you ready?
I was born ready, Mr. Nice Guy.
Okay, I feel like this one's way too easy, so we're not going to do this one.
No, please.
Do you want me to do it? Okay, we'll do it. I feel like it's very obvious. It's a Nintendo question. Here's the question. What game series encourages you to do a barrel roll?
Oh, that's Star Fox.
Yeah. It's in quotations with an exclamation point. Do a barrel roll.
Okay, yeah, so
like-
definitely Star Fox. Well, if you want to get another one, I'm just going to say, no longer a clean sweep. Woo!
Well, let's do it. So, it is absolutely Star Fox. Now, you know what's interesting? It says Star Fox / Lilat Wars. We got it right, but I've never heard of Lilat Wars before.
Yeah.
I'm not even familiar with that. I'm going to Google it later. Does
Yeah.
anyone in the chat know what that is?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, let's keep things moving. We'll do one more question from the test bank, and then we will wrap it up for the night. Shout out to Ish Mobile for that question that stumped us tonight. Mac, the final question of the night is as follows. In what game... I have no idea. Capcom, in what game might you hear Jotaro Kutu cry, "Ora, ora, ora," while punching? It's a Capcom game. In what game might you hear Jotaro? Wait, hold on. Jotaro, Jotaro, Kuto cry, "Ora, ora, ora," while punching. I feel like for ones like this that aren't multiple choice, we can go with different answers.
Sure. Ugh.
Let's think Capcom games. It's not like a Mega Man, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I don't know, dude.
What's that one fighting game that Spennis is always talking about? Oh my gosh, not Killer Instinct, but it's that other fighting game that he's obsessed with.
Clay Fighters?
No, it's a Capcom.
Street Fighter?
No, Street Fighter is Capcom, but it's not Street Fighter. We're about to get this wrong.
I mean,
We about to
God
get this
Hand
wrong.
comes to mind, but that's just because that's just a game that's in my head and I think of when I think of fighting games. But yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. Well, why don't we just go with? I'm gonna go with Street Fighter. I know that's not it because I can't remember the name of the other fighting game that he's obsessed with. Why don't we just go Street Fighter? What the heck?
Sure.
Who cares? We've been struggling lately. Shows that we don't know it all. Oh, it was not anything that we would have gotten. It's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, never played that one. I mean, I've heard the title, but that is the extent of my interaction with it. So,
All right. Well, no worries. Hey, you guys got us stumped this week. There's still test bank, or rather, what's the thing we've been doing, Mac? The audio
oh yeah,
questions.
there
out
are
there.
still plenty of the sound tests that are out there. You should give those a go.
And that has been Nerdflex.
All right, well, now we turn to a little bit of legalese.
Legalese.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. And a couple of days after we recorded last, Mr. Nice Guy sent, added me as a reply to a tweet from Billy Mitchell, where Billy said that he had won he had won that case, that anti-slap motion, and I guess it's time for me to issue a retraction, kind of. So, did I get it wrong? Kinda, yeah. But look, in my defense, at the time, the only document available was a half-a-page summary from the minute order, and the full judgment did not actually show up until the day after we recorded our show. So when we recorded our show, it was hot off the presses. The minute order, said some things that led me to believe that, in fact, Billy had lost.
Mac, would you mind, for those who maybe didn't catch last week's episode, could we get like a 30-second previously on Two Nerds in a Pod? So just so people know what all was happening.
Sure. So what had happened was for the longest time, second musical reference of the night. Billy Mitchell had sued Twin Galaxies for defamation by, pulling down his records and essentially saying that Billy Mitchell had cheated. At which point in time, as things were going back and forth, Twin Galaxies responded with an anti-SLAP, and SLAP is strategic lawsuit against public participation. And so the whole idea behind a SLAP suit is to prevent bad actors from using lawsuits to chill speech. How is that done? During a lawsuit, the best practices are for both sides to keep quiet about everything till the suit is over, for a whole host of reasons we won't go into right here. But additionally, as we know, lawsuits can be expensive on both sides and only get more expensive as the suit moves forward. So anti-SLAP is the means by which the defendant can say, Your Honor, this lawsuit is designed to keep us quiet. And before the case moves forward, incurring all those extra fees and such, the plaintiff, the person who's bringing the lawsuit, is compelled to show that there is merit. And so the idea is we put a stop to it until they can say, hey, it's going, there is merit here, and then the lawsuit proceeds forward. So anyway, that being said, the minute order assessed a fine to Billy Mitchell and said specific wording that led me to believe that the anti-SLAP had found in favor of Twin Galaxies. However, that turned out to be not the case. So getting into what's actually, now that the day after I actually got my hands on the document and could actually read it, here's what went forward. The judge did note specifically in the actual thing that in an anti-SLAP situation, they do not weigh evidence nor resolve factual disputes. As a result, in spite of the specifics being contested, the judge said, I'm taking Billy Mitchell's claims as 100% truth, and if they are 100% truth, the judge believed that Billy met the bar for, and I am going to directly quote, minimal merit in order for the suit to proceed. Now, in Billy Mitchell's tweet on the 30th or the 28th after we recorded that Mr. Nice Guy sent to me, Billy Mitchell claimed that he had probability to win this suit. That is not what was said. The judge said quote minimal merit, but that's nowhere near as sexy as probability. Now, interesting side note, I did learn some cool things. Like on page 19 of the ruling, it's mentioned
Ooh.
that Billy argued that his hot sauce business saw declines of nearly 50% in sales during 2018 as compared to previous years, and about the same level of sales in 2019, to which he has attributed the damage to his personal brand from Twin Galaxies. So
That's interesting, dude.
I know, right? But nonetheless, that's not essential. That's not essential to what's going here. But as a result of that, and saying that Billy Mitchell met the minimal merit, that the suit can now move forward to a jury trial because the plaintiff met the requirements to move forward. I.e., like I said, if everything Billy said is true, this could be a meritorious case. So was I wrong? Yes, because the anti-slap failed and the case is moving forward. However, okay, Mr. Nice Guy, you've got.
I just want to say the reason I tagged you was not to say, "Oh, Mac, look, you messed this up, man.
Oh,
You're giving
yeah,
incorrect info." It
I
was just
know
like, "Hey,
you're
here's
not-
here's an update. Here's an update." That was it.
I
That
know,
was it,
man.
brother.
You weren't putting me on blast. I know. I love you. You love me. We're all one big happy family. Barney reference. So technically, that's a third music because that's the song he
not
sings?
real music. It's
Okay,
not
real music. We'll carry on. But so was I wrong? Yes. But the case is moving forward. However, the judge did say that if Twin Galaxies' presentation was also taken as on face value, as fact, he said that Twin Galaxies has a reasonable chance of success. Matter of fact, while I couldn't find the words probability of winning offered up for the plaintiff, for Billy Mitchell, the line, quote, reasonable possibility of success does actually come up for the defendants. So, in the judge's estimation, if everything that each party says is 100% true, on Billy's side, it's minimal merit, and on Twin Galaxies, it's reasonable possibility of success. So, let's just let that go where it lies. Now, where I ran into trouble, as I was saying, is I had primarily been focusing on that FCC case, right? And boy, do those people love to bury their meaning in layers on layers of legalese. Point being is that minute order, I basically just kind of threw this out precisely because I didn't have an actual thing to read from, but it was noteworthy to what we had been talking about. And in the minute order, it said, quote, the court thus grants defendants, that's Twins Galaxies, motion for an undertaking. Plaintiff is to post a bond in the amount of $81,225, which sounds a lot like they had won the anti-slap, right? If those are the only words you see, you would be forgiven for assuming that they had won the anti-slap. Court grants defense's motion. Plaintiff has to post a bond? It sounds like they won. But anyway, at the end of the day, Billy Mitchell has to put up $81,000 in Twin Galaxies' expected legal fees, but the suit still moves forward, making this kind of a win-win, lose-lose situation depending on which side you're considering. Billy wins to move forward, but Twin Galaxies wins a guaranteed $81,000 that's already got to be set aside before it goes forward. Billy's got 30 days to have $81,225 ready to hand over to Twin Galaxies. So they already have the prize money there. Twin Galaxies loses because it goes to trial, but Billy loses $81,000 at least for the time being.
For the time being, that's the key.
Because it's exactly because it's a bond. But before it goes forward, Billy has to already put up the cash money for their expected legal fees. So I'd forgive anybody for saying that, including someone like me who's not a lawyer. So that's just a little bit of legalese.
And now it's time to talk about what we've been watching and what we've been playing, the last segment before we go. If you're here live, you have a job to do. Let us know what nerdy stuff you've been into in the chat, what games you've been playing on your Xbox, your PlayStation, your Switch, your new iPhone, because we all love Apple here at Two Nerds in a Pod, even Maction. Let us know the games you've been playing on your PCs as well. Also, let us know the stuff you've been watching on Netflix, on Hulu, on YouTube, on Twitch, everything, because we're always looking for cool nerdy stuff to get into. Mac, I'll lead off today. Bro, I've been watching The Mandalorian, man. I rewatched season 1 with the wife. We watched episode 1 of season 2, and boy, I will tell you what, they're killing it. They're killing it putting this show together and creating a new side quest, a new side story in the Star Wars universe. The first episode was great. It was great. That's all I will say. Um, as far as what I've been playing, Mac, I picked up Hades on the eShop on sale. And here's what I will say about Hades. It is a lot of fun. I like roguelites, okay. Lots of replayability, tight controls. It's fun. Good voice acting, right? It's made by the same people who made Bastion and Transistor and all those other games. But it is not The Last of Us Part 2. It is not Half-Life Alyx. So all y'all out there who podcast, who make content, stop saying that Hades is a Game of the Year candidate. It's absolutely not. It's a great game. It's a good, solid 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10, but it is not anywhere near those other blockbusters we've gotten this year. So just stop it. And I've been watching other stuff too. Oh, Mac, lastly, I got to tell you this, brother, and we can talk about this more in the post show. Cobra Kai, my man. I was just bored one night. I was like, let me watch an episode of this. And I was like, oh, I'm hooked. This is a legit show. I would describe it as Freaks and Geeks meets Breaking Bad. That's how I would describe Cobra Kai. I'll explain more after in the post show. That's it for me.
Okay. For my part, what I've been playing, honestly, not a lot. I've been playing some TTRPGs, played some GURPS, played some Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition this weekend, and I'm looking forward to some more this week. As for what I've been watching, I think I haven't been able to get in on The Mandalorian yet. I've been watching some YouTube stuff and catching up on some back episodes of some podcasts, mostly. I haven't been watching a lot. But yeah, what have our people been watching and playing? I would like to take watching. Ishmobile is, Galvatron is watching Blood of Zeus on Netflix and Haunting of Bly Manor, and 300 as well. Ishmobile is watching Coco and Queen's Gambit. Crux Capacitor is still working his way through Dark. And that looks... and that looks about it for watching.
Cool. Now, as far as playing, we have got Ish Mobile, who's playing Detroit Become Human. I got to get your thoughts on that game because I have that PS Plus. I just have never gotten into it, and I've heard it's fantastic. Mario World and Zelda Ocarina of Time. Nice. He said no GURPS because he missed our game last week. Just kidding, Ish Mobile. You're all right, brother. We love you. Kane Angel Fire says he is playing Stellaris and RimWorld. Let's see. Crux Capacitor is playing stuff. Galvatron is, or rather watching stuff. Galvatron is playing Tony Hawk 1 and... Go ahead.
Crux Capacitor played and streamed Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden tonight.
Oh, I missed that. How is that? Let me know. It's a classic. Galvatron's playing Tony Hawk 1 and 2 Remastered. That is at the top of my list for Black Friday pickups, Galvatron. Paper Mario on Switch, Mario Kart 8, and Murdered Soul Suspect. Uncle Ruckus is playing Payday 2 and GTA 5. And I believe that's it, Mac. Why don't you take us home today, brother?
All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. Y'all are awesome. We know that there are plenty of other things you could be watching right now or pages you could be refreshing really quickly, but we're glad We're glad that you came here to spend time with us. We love you. You're the best viewers on Twitch, the best listeners on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Love and hugs. Be excellent to each other. And keep it nerdy.
Deuces.
See ya.